Hi, my name's Andrew. I'm a Master of Clinical Audiology student. I'm in my second year, and I'm also a volunteer here at Hearing Matters Australia. And I'm with Michelle. Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. My name's Michele. I am a hearing coordinator for Macquarie University Hearing.
So, could you share a bit about your hearing loss and how it's impacted your life?
Yeah. So I don't have a hearing loss, and precisely because I have a congenital hearing disability. I haven't lost anything during my life. The hearing I have today is identical to the hearing I had when I was born.
Do you have any tips or advice for others to improve their hearing experience?
So again, I wouldn't talk about trying to improve your hearing experience. I would talk about trying to improve your communication skills or trying to engage more inclusively in the world. And so that is really about teaching other people how they can communicate well with you and doing everything that you can to try and communicate well with others. So I find their focus on wearing hearing aids or a cochlear implant and trying to increase your hearing or somehow turn yourself into a hearing person is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to live in the world as I am and how I can best engage with others.
Well, that's very nicely said. Well, do you have any suggestions? Like, what would you offer to hearing people to help support people with a hearing loss?
So I think, the best thing is for people, whether you're engaging with someone who has a hearing loss or not, is to actually just participate with the best communication skills that you can possibly muster and learn what they are. Get my attention before you start talking to me. Face me when you're talking to me. Make sure that you're not covering your face so that I can see. Do all of those things. Speak clearly, articulate your words, slow down a bit. If I obviously haven't grasped what you've said, instead of just repeating it, rephrase it in a different way. So increase my chances of understanding what it is that you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And those small things do make a big difference.
They do.
What key areas do you believe should be advocated for better support for individuals with hearing loss?
So for me, it's actually all about audiologists, so here's my chance, right? It's about thinking about hearing devices, and by which I mean hearing aids or cochlear implants, as just one element of all of the equipment that can be useful in your life to allow you to be more included. So, for example, I'm currently wearing a vibrating watch, which is attached to my phone. My phone doesn't ring, it vibrates on my wrist. So if anything happens, that's where I get a notification. I have security cameras around my home, so I get a notification on my wrist. I mean, my wrist vibrates all day, I have to say, but I get a notification if anyone's coming towards the door. So I don't have to actually hear the doorbell. Although having said that, I have Ring doorbell and I've got ringers all over the place so that pretty much no matter where I am, I can also hear the ring even without my hearing aids in place.
Yeah, nice. And are there any other areas you'd like to talk about?
Look, I think it's really important for everybody to, when you're trying to engage with someone who is hard of hearing, to listen to what they need in the conversation or in the environment that you're in. So don't try and convince someone that they need to have bigger, better hearing aids that can tap dance or something like that. But actually, if they're saying to you, I need to move somewhere where there's quite a background, don't try and do something else. Just do what they've asked you to do. So, just take people's word that they know what's best for them in terms of the adjustments they require.
Michele, can you share a bit about how hearing loss has impacted your life, maybe your working life or at home?
So, two very different things, I suppose. In terms of my working life, I've had some really good experiences with people who, well, particularly with managers, I suppose, who've been really accommodating of my requirements in the workplace and have ensured that I've been included as much as is possible. But conversely, I've also worked in some organisations where people have considered that I should be hearing and anything that I've requested has been too much. And you know, I've come away from some of those environments with really it has a negative impact on my mental health, for sure, without a doubt. Socially, though, you know, away from the professional field, I think it's very clear to me that the fatigue that I experience in a workplace, in a work environment, has an impact in terms of what I can do outside of work. So I can't, for example, spend 8 hours in a workplace and then go to a club for 4 hours, because I would take a week to get over that, just based on the fatigue of trying to be involved in conversations all day and then potentially all night as well. So very clear about that. Very clear also that some of the friendships that I have really have been defined by people's ability to relate to me, to communicate with me, and the people who will take the time to ensure that I'm included. So for those people, when I know that they've put in some effort to try and keep me involved, then more than happy to walk over hot coals for them. You know, so it becomes a reciprocal thing.
Is there anything in particular you found that's been really beneficial?
Look, I think it just comes back to the things I was talking about before, in terms of like just really focusing on communicating well, just being patient and understanding sometimes that if I respond inappropriately to a question, there's a reasonable chance I've misheard the question. You know, I mean, sometimes I'm just being an idiot, but sometimes it's actually about the fact that I haven't heard the question. So
Yeah.
just understanding those differences.
Can you give us some day-to-day life examples of how hearing loss has affected you?
Yeah, the one that springs to mind more than anything is medical appointments. I mean, you know, the number of times that I've sat in a waiting room and someone's called me and then 2 hours later I'm still sitting there waiting. Some of those environments are just incredibly difficult. You know, and people talk about going shopping, and oddly enough, there's things go on in retail environment that are so simple, and you go, why can't you do this at the local GP clinic? Like I go to a deli and they have a numbering system, so they call out the number, but they also have the number as a visual on the back of the counter, so you know it's your turn. So simple, but it just makes my life so easy, because I'm standing there going, I don't have to try and hear what I can't hear. I can just look at the visual. Similarly, go to a chemist and you hand in a script and they give you a beeper, so you can walk around the chemist and go back when the beeper goes off, instead of standing there trying to hear them call your name. So some of those simple things are like so good, and you go, well, if they can do it in a chemist or they can do it in the deli, why can't they do it in so many other places where it could be useful as well? So, like in terms of pubs and clubs, I basically don't do that anymore. It might be a function of my age. Probably did a little bit when I was younger, but really struggled because I cannot hold a conversation with that kind of background noise. So it's a bit of a pointless exercise for me. So these days when I go and engage with friends, it would usually be in some cafe or something like that with an outdoor area that's quiet by a river or by the beach or something like that, where there's no background noise and no echo to deal with. Similarly, there's one cinema in Sydney that I attend. I haven't been there for a few years, but it's the only cinema I've come across that has good acoustics, and they have hearing in the theatre as well, so I've got some chance of actually being able to hear what's going on. Generally what I would do is wait for a movie that I really want to see on DVD or something like that with captions engaged, so that I can just watch that at home in my own environment with the technology I have available with the captions engaged. So I give you a really good example, I suppose, of a professional environment where I was absolutely included, which is I was working at the National Disability Insurance Agency at the time, actually, and the manager had organised a Christmas party for our team, and that was organised in a restaurant. So the invitations were sent out, and I declined the invitation, knowing how difficult it would be for me to engage in conversation. Anyway, the manager came to me and said, "Why did you decline? I want you to be there." I said, "Yeah, well, it doesn't really work for me because of the environment." And she said, "So what does a good environment look like for you?" And I said, "Well, no background noise, preferably outside," rattled off a few things, I guess. Anyway, she didn't say any more. And 2 days later, got an email that said it's cancellation of the Christmas party at the restaurant. And we were now going to the local park, and we were all bringing our own food, and we were all going to sit under a tree and have a kumbaya moment under a tree.
Yeah.
But it was really lovely. So, and that was, I worked for that manager for 4.5 years, and that will tell you why. There was well, doesn't matter how many other things go on in a regular day that aren't ideal. That one day, that one example was something I went, okay, it's really excellent that someone thought that through. Interestingly enough, that person is a speech pathologist by trade, and she said to me when I joined the team that she thought she knew something about hearing. Or hearing loss, I guess. When I left the team, she said, "Now I know something about hearing loss." So it's like, over the course of those 4 years, I taught her so much about how to ensure that someone's included. So just goes to show that professional training isn't everything in terms of understanding.